Stop, don't order the M2 Ultra Mac Studio or especially Mac Pro just yet because the performance numbers have just leaked, and honestly, you might be better off buying the M1 Ultra version, which you can get for as low as $3,300 on Amazon. And before I get into the leak scores and explain why, I want to mention that Apple made it seem like the Mac Studio is blazing fast, destroying the old M1 Ultra model in so many tasks, but it's actually not that big of a difference, at least in terms of CPU performance, so check out these leaked scores. As you can see, it's pushing 1,956 single-core points and 27,945 for multi-core. And yes, this is legit. We know that because this is an official Geekbench listing showing the model number Mac 1414, which was precisely one of the Macs leaked within beta code a while back, so it is legit. We can also see it's got 192 gigs of unified memory, and the cores ran at a maximum of 3.68 gigahertz, which matches what we saw with the M2 Max chip within the 16-inch MacBook Pro. But back to the scores, that single core matches right up with the M2 Max's single core score. Now, while almost 28,000 multi-core points sounds like a huge number and a big improvement, it's actually not that much, because if we do the math, it's only 18% faster than the M1 Ultra scored in Geekbench 5. And now on top of that, what you might not realize is that this 18% improvement actually includes the addition of 4 extra efficiency cores. Yes, the M2 Ultra has a 24-core CPU compared to 20 on the M1 Ultra. And yes, I am actually able to calculate the performance difference if those extra 4 cores weren't actually there, so here's how I did it. In previous calculations, I discovered that each efficiency core within the M2 chip adds an extra 305 points to Geekbench 5's multi-core score. And yes, the M2 Pro, Max, and Ultra chips all use the same efficiency cores directly from the M2. So with 4 extra E cores on the M2 Ultra, that equals 1,220 points. So if we take that from the total score of 27,945, that brings us down to 26,725, making the M2 Ultra just 13% faster than the M1 Ultra if you don't account for the extra 4 E cores. So in reality, the M2 Ultra is gaining only 13% from the core and other improvements alone. But guess what? The M1 Ultra ran at 3.0 gigahertz multi-core while firing all of the cores at once, which is the same as the M1 Max, while we expect the M2 Ultra to run at 3.4 gigahertz, basically the same as the M2 Max currently does. And 3.4 gigahertz is around 13% faster than 3.0, so believe it or not, the M2 Ultra chip's performance advantages come down to basically a very simple 13% overclock of the performance cores, as well as the addition of 4 more efficiency cores. That's it. But all in all, if you're doing CPU-based tasks, the raw performance difference is only 18% faster, so if that's not a big deal to you, why not just buy the $3,300 M1 Ultra Max Studio on Amazon using the link below and spend the extra $700 savings on something else like a new iPad or some Mac accessories. However, I want to point out something very eye-opening about the M2 Ultra's performance in Geekbench 6. But before that, I've got to show off our partner 4Movie's ultra short throw projector, which I believe is the best consumer projector you can buy, winning the top pick of 2022 award due to its fully loaded specs like Dolby Vision and Atmos support and 4K ALPD 4.0 RGB plus laser quality with 2800 ANSI lumens of brightness, which is so bright you can watch during the daytime with the blinds open, and it can project up to a 150-inch screen with it being just 1.5 feet from the wall, offering the best plug-and-play theater experience you can get running Android TV 11, so check it out using the link below. Now back to the M1 Ultra, if we take that same 18% improvement and apply it to how the M1 Ultra performed in Geekbench 6, we're left with a score of 20,710, which yes, is actually lower than Geekbench 5's scores. Why? Well, because Geekbench 6 is much more realistic than the older version, because instead of duplicating the test for each core, version version 6 now creates one huge task that all of the cores have to work on together, which is obviously much more realistic to what you'd get for real-world CPU performance. And the problem with the Ultra chips is that they suffer from diminishing returns because they have so many cores working at once. And since the M2 Ultra has an extra 4 cores compared to the M1 Ultra, it'll likely suffer even more. But even without accounting for that, the big point I want to make is that in the more realistic Geekbench 6, the M2 Ultra will only be around 44% faster than the M2 Max MacBook Pro, nowhere near the doubling in performance that many people think will happen with the Ultra chip. Even though it has double the cores, that's diminishing returns for you. So in that case, some people might even decide to just save their cash and buy an M2 Max MacBook Pro instead, or even the new M2 Max Mac Studio, which is absolutely a great deal. Now on the other hand, we also have the graphics side of the equation with new leaks, and it actually does look a lot more promising. So if you're more interested in graphics than CPU workloads, it might actually be worth spending the full $4,000 on a new M2 Ultra model instead of saving that $700. Leaked benchmarks just dropped for the M2 Ultra's GPU, specifically GFX Bench's Aztec Ruins high-tier off-screen 4K test. As you can see, it now gets 314.8 FPS in this test compared to 200.9 FPS on the M1 Ultra, making it 56.7% faster, which is a massive improvement. That right there is telling me it's definitely worth getting the M2 Ultra if you care about graphics performance, because this test uses a gaming workload, which is actually very realistic. Now on top of that, we can also look at Apple's own performance charts and see that the M2 Ultra has a huge lead over the M1 Ultra in terms of 3D rendering, which hints at Apple potentially fixing the GPU scaling issues that caused the M1 Ultra to have really disappointing graphics performance in some tests. On top of that, Apple showed off this chart of video transcoding performance, showing that the M2 Ultra is significantly faster than both M1 Ultra and M1 Max, which oddly have the same performance, which makes it seem like Apple has finally fixed the encoder problem with the new M2 Ultra chip, and it's almost twice as fast, which is a massive deal for anybody working with video. So basically, the point is that if you're looking on the graphics side, it looks like buying the M2 Ultra Max Studio is definitely worth it. But hopefully this video was interesting and useful for you, and if it was, comment down below with your thoughts and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.